Grab your coffee and join me, Nicoa, for a caffeinated conversation about life. I'll be talking to people who have chosen to walk their own paths and, just like me, are creating a life by design. I hope it will give you the inspiration you need to do exactly the same. Oh my God, my face just froze with my tongue sticking out. I love this. Okay, welcome to Coffee with Nicoa. We actually have video, you guys, in case you're wondering why I said that. I am here with the beautiful Cassandra Babilya. She is this beautiful new contact of mine that I met you, Cassandra, through Ayanna Jackson. Is that right?
Yeah, mutual LinkedIn besties.
Is that how you met her?
Yeah, I met her through Hiba Youssef, who I also met on LinkedIn, and Ayanna and I did an episode of Hiba's HR therapy back in late 2022 together about manager enablement, and that's how we bonded.
Oh my gosh, I think I might have even seen some of those. Those are interesting conversations. And Ayanna was a guest of mine on Coffee with Nicoa, as you know, and she made sure that we connected. And I am very excited to have you. And I'm also very excited that I managed to get you on my calendar before you had this baby. I can't see. How's it going down there? Old new baby coming. This is baby number 2?
So this is baby number 2, and we are now under 4 weeks. So I'm on maternity leave right now as we speak. And baby number 2 is going to be making an appearance, a scheduled appearance on April 2nd.
And you have a firstborn. What's your firstborn's name and age?
Gabriel. So Gabriel will be 10 days after she arrives.
Oh, she arrives. Oh, we know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you want to share the name yet? Or is it a big, well, it'll probably be, by the time this airs, everyone will know. So what's her name?
I will share once she pops out, and you could add it to the show notes.
Okay. She's so afraid.
We're holding it tight until she actually joins us.
You know, there's very few surprises left in life, and I think that's beautiful. And I think your life sounds like it's really been an interesting roller coaster. So let me give everybody the quick overview of your history. And then, as we said before we pushed play, we'll go down some rabbit holes together. Sound like a plan?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Cassandra Babilya is a mom, as we've just discussed. She's the creator of, wait for it, guys, Make Work Suck Less. It's a newsletter. She also has a website. And I have a copy of her recent journal that she published called You Got This, and proof that I've been filling it out. I actually have used it. I really enjoyed it. Really great stuff. And I was even thinking this morning when I was filling it out, I thought, I'm going to have to ask her some of these questions that she's asking all of us.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, that'll be good, right? So not only have you been publishing and trying to get messaging out there to the world that, you know, they don't have to have a sucky life at work, you are also a certified career coach, a corporate culture leader in the tech space. You are working with Amazon Web Services at the moment as their communications leader. And she also helped sponsor a place online called A Safe Place, which I went down my own rabbit hole and found Safe Place. So that's kind of a neat thing. I really want you to talk about that for people. She believes that everyone deserves to wake up excited and energized for the day. And you can actually go to her website. We'll make sure you get all these nice free resources, and I'll put those in the show notes. But my very first question to you, in the context of a life by design, I'm really curious. What was it that happened that made you realize that work sucked and you needed to design a different life?
Okay, so I've had many moments over the past 17 years that I've discovered that work sucks, and it shouldn't suck quite so much. The first one was when I was with the CIA, and I was young. I want to say I was 24, 25.
Oh gosh, that is young.
No,
so you went in.
I was really young.
How did you even find out about going to work for the CIA? I mean, what did you do? Grow up wanting to be a spy?
I grew up, it's like the government's the family business. So I grew up overseas. I applied to work at the CIA. So one stormy night, I went to UVA in Charlottesville, Virginia. One stormy night, I applied for 3 roles that were going to carry me through my illustrious career. So I thought, I applied to be an au pair, a nanny / ESL teacher in Italy immediately following graduation from college in 2007. I applied to be a, what's it called when you fill in for teachers? I applied to be a substitute teacher.
I did that for 3 days.
I did that in my hometown for a school year following Italy before the government. And I applied to join the CIA because I knew that the clearance process was going to take a while. So I knew I was going to need a full year time to be employed in some way that I would enjoy before actually onboarding. And so I got all 3 roles. It all stacked up perfectly. The stars aligned. I moved to Italy 2 days after I graduated from college. I spent 6 months there teaching, nannying for and teaching this 5-year-old girl in a town called Lecce, which is in the south of Italy. I describe it as it's in the heel of the boot, like midway between the Ionic and Adriatic Seas. It's gorgeous.
I bet.
I taught. I started as a substitute teacher in my hometown, but they wound up making me a permanent sub for the first grade ESL program. And I loved that. I think maybe still to this day, maybe my favorite job, but it was also so exhausting. But I loved working with the little tiny 5 and 6-year-olds and helping them learn English. And then I joined the CIA as a GS-8 support integration officer, which the salary was good. It was good for me being 21 years old and came with all the benefits and the promise of a long career, a long and stable career in the U.S. government. And it came with the promise of travel and being able to learn more languages, which was what I was looking for. I literally just said, sign me up for whatever role lets me travel. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to, figure out what on the job stuff is, which is, of course, it's all on the job because you can't take a college course in being a spy.
No, I love this though so much. I mean, and right. I want everybody to notice language. So as a coach, I'm always listening to language, right? So the promise, right? This American dream promise. And, government, everybody puts the association of, oh, those are great benefits. And if you can get a government job, you just stick with it forever. So you did not stick with it forever. What happened? I did
not stick with it forever. So I will say it did deliver on the promise of travel and language learning. I think if I count now, I've been to about 50 countries around the world.
Oh, wow.
And I did have the opportunity to pick up some additional languages on a rudimentary working level as I needed them while I was living overseas. So that it came through for sure. But I'd say, so I joined right after my 22nd birthday. I started at EOD'd. And then by 25, I want to say, I don't know if this is going to work out forever. I distinctly remember having a conversation with a mentor of mine where I said, I think I'm having an early midlife crisis. I can see it coming now. I can definitely see it coming now. And
Michelle Rios said that's called a quarter life crisis. I interviewed Michelle. She's an executive coach, and the quarter life crisis. You were right on. That's a real thing.
Oh yeah, I was a real thing. I hadn't heard the term quarter life crisis at that time. So I was just maybe I'm really excelling here with a midlife crisis at 25. What I saw stacking up ahead of me in the next 30 years until, retirement set in was I was on their schedule, on their timeline, moving around the world every 1 to 3 years. And those 1 to 3 year increments, those 1 to 3 year tours of duty were planned out in advance like 1 to 2 years in advance. So for a young woman like myself, it was real hard to date and settle down,
Sure.
especially when everyone you meet comes with an expiration date. So it's real hard to plan out your life thinking, okay, you meet someone and you date for, I don't know, however long people are supposed to date. And then they decide that they want to, make a life together. And then eventually they decide that they want to have kids together. None of those conversations or calculations could come into play because I was always thinking, well, I'm going to be in North Africa in 8 months. And then 2 years from that, who knows where I'll be, hopefully somewhere sunny where they speak Spanish. Like my life was, I could see already that my life was not going to enable me to make the type of like long-term solid connections that I started feeling at 25 like I wanted.
Right. And what was life like? Would you have to kill me if you tell us at all about what you were doing in these locations?
Okay. So, the CIA is broken down into 4 types of work. You are an ops person where you are managing assets and human intelligence. You are an analyst where you are dealing in writing reports and reading reports. You're a science person where you are dealing with technology, or you're a support person like I was when I was like a operations manager. So what I did on the ground day to day was a mix of literally everything from office management to communication to HR, logistics, security, finance, budgeting, integrating with other embassy personnel, integrating with foreign personnel. I managed helo operations on a flight line in a war zone for a year.
Wow.
So the job comes with a lot, lots of skills.
Yes. And they want to expose you to all the different parts of the world so that they're prepping you for that promise of that career pathing where you might have an even higher level responsibility. Is that what the promise was?
Yeah, the promise was, well, you look at the women around you who have fulfilled that promise, who've made it to the top. And they were ultra successful women who'd seen the entire world, who were leading giant teams, who had really big jobs, and they were, for the most part, alone. And
that's not what you wanted.
That's not. I could tell at 25 that's when I started thinking that's probably not what I'm going to want. It wasn't until later where I said, no, this is definitely not what I want. The transition from me from, first generation kid to go to college, brought up to be independent and succeed and get the degree and get the job and get the benefits, to, oh, maybe I would like to instead be surrounded by some people who I love and who love me. And maybe that independence and that financial stability isn't the most important thing in the world. That happened around 30.
Yeah. You had your aha moment, what matters most to me and why am I doing all of this? Yeah. Good for you. So the making work suck less, what sucked about it other than it wasn't really the work that would support the lifestyle you wanted? But I read your story and I know that you also really struggled with people dynamics. Now, have you come to learn that not everybody, but there were some really sucky dynamics with your leadership, or did you come to learn you were perceiving it as sucky at the time?
Oh,
you know the difference,
that's a good
right?
question. I do know the difference.
Yeah.
It took me way too long to recognize that it wasn't just an inkling, a feeling that things shouldn't be run like that, shouldn't feel like work should not feel like that. It took me a long time to come to terms with that feeling and trust it, because no, things were definitely not good. Definitely not good. The leadership styles, give
us an example, because you did in that blog.
The emotional abuse, like visited on teams by leaders, was just unfathomable. Okay, so an example. One example. I got hit on by my future boss on the way to the airport to where we were going to be stationed overseas in close quarters for a year, where I was the only woman around. And I come to find out that his wife was supposed to be filling that role, but I took it instead. There's the instance of the leader who lost her ever-loving mind and just had us all she was so tightly wound, and she had us all so stressed out on a daily basis, where people were routinely crying in the office. And we had the stoplight system where we'd like just chat with each other. Like, is this a red, yellow, or green day?
Oh gosh.
We weren't allowed to talk. We weren't allowed to make friends with anyone else in the embassy. We were kept very isolated. And she did that on purpose because she wanted total control. It's a time of, going through security, in my reinvestigation shortly before I left, and just getting grilled in a room by two dudes about my sex life, and just totally inappropriate. And the way that they
under the
themselves.
auspices of security, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they're claiming we're doing this research because we have to. Yeah. It seemed like a pretty micromanaged life experience. Like, even if you did date somebody, didn't you have to like submit their name or something? Like, it's like, how do you even get to see people? You can't create a real life in that world. It has to be that career life. And that's a choice. You have
no choice. Yeah, right. You have no choice but to share every single aspect of your personal life, who you date, who you sleep with, who you marry, what kind of money you have in the bank, where you're traveling. And it's not just that you need to share that, you need to get permission. You need to get permission from your boss.
Well, now you must have known that this was going to be the way it was. I don't know.
I did not know it was going to be that bad.
Okay.
I didn't know it was going to be that bad.
Well, it sounds like the leadership took advantage of their power for sure in those dynamics. But what an interesting thing. And we don't know. It's really actually, I'm glad I asked that question, because we don't know what we don't know until we're there. And what I'm really proud of you is that there was something in you that ultimately you listened to, right? You decided to change your mind. Tell us about that moment, that pivotal moment.
Yeah. So the moment happened, like I said, I started feeling that inkling around 25, but it was right before I turned 30 where I said, oh, absolutely, like, not anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. And it was the moment that the benefits of the role and the people that I worked with, and the amazing travel and getting to learn new languages, all of that became not worth it compared to how undervalued and underwhelmed I felt in my career, and unsupported and unlistened to. It was the morning I got a performance review, my annual performance review. And it was like, you're amazing. We love everything you do, because I was a doer. I got shit done. That's kind of was my thing for a while. And we love what you're doing. We think that you're a little bit too much sometimes, and we're not going to promote you again.
Too much.
Too much.
That just makes me.
I said, like, okay, well, I'm done. And I literally drove. I drove in and I said, well, as soon as I can find a new job, I'm leaving. So consider this my early resignation.
Good for you. And what was the reaction? Was that, did they walk you out the door, or do you have to stick it out?
No. So the reaction was to immediately try to figure out a way to keep me. And I was like, y'all have had 8 years to demonstrate that you value what I bring to the table here. And you haven't. So now it's too late. And I was like, I said, I am going to continue to do all the things you love that I bring to the table while I am here. But I'm going to recommit to the fact that I am leaving as soon as possible. And it took 8 months.
Guess what, y'all? I published a book. Your Life by Design, a Coffee with Nicoa self-care coaching journal, is now available on Amazon. This interactive journal begins and ends with powerful queries, guiding you on a quest for the kind of life by design you don't need a vacation from. I've included an in-depth look at strategic self-care to empower you and hold you accountable to really getting to know your true self. It's time to prioritize you. Use the link in the show notes to buy yours today. Well, good for you, though. What did you have to do differently? Like, what were the lessons learned in retrospect as you began to set out on that next stage of your life? You know, you're going to have a set of new standards, right? Tell us about that thought process as you designed that next stage.
Okay, so I'm going to be really honest, Nicoa. The next stage had zero design to it.
That's okay.
And the
That's
reason
normal.
the reason why I pivoted from, my first real career, I actually had 8 years of really great progressive experience in the government at the CIA. I had, demonstrated managing small and very large teams. I had demonstrated doing a lot of different awesome skills. However, I couldn't talk a whole lot about that stuff. I couldn't share. I didn't have. So, for example, I had an internal version of the project management professional, the PMP certification, but I couldn't get the external one because they needed more documentation about the projects that I was running, and I couldn't share that.
Oh, that's annoying.
I couldn't share. Yeah, I couldn't share. So specifics. Companies, particularly in the tech sector, they love to be able to share specific metrics and impact, and I couldn't share anything. And when I actually remember I was getting interviewed once, and someone said, "Well, how did you measure success of that role?" And I looked at them and I was like, "Well, no one died. So 0 deaths. That's right. How I measured success of that role." And they were like, "That's not a normal answer." And I said, "Well, yes, I was not in a normal position before." So the transition happened. So the reason it took 8 months, it took about 4 of that was me rolling back my cover. And so I could say I worked for the CIA, and then getting a resume approved by the PR people, making sure that I wasn't saying anything that I wasn't allowed, that I wasn't supposed to. And what I could say was very minimal on my resume. And then I was able to start the job hunt, but it was just closed door after closed door. I didn't have a network. I didn't have a social media or LinkedIn presence. I didn't know how to, so I'd never had to go through a corporate interview process before. I didn't know how to. And so literally at one point I just said, "Look, I will do anything but strip. I will do any job that does not require me to take my clothes off because I just need to get out of here right now." And thankfully I found one. It happened to be a project manager role, a contract role, like a 6-month contract at AWS that a friend of mine who I'd worked with, it was also government. He had moved over to AWS, and he called me up and he said, "Hey, I need help with this. I need help with this program. I can get you a 6-month contract, and then you'll likely be able to flip it to a full-time role because they'll love you." And I said yes. And 3 weeks later, I walked out the door and never looked back.
Oh, wow. And when you look back now, right, what is it that you are really proud of about that transition? I mean, when you think about that, would you have done it sooner if you knew then what you know now? I mean, tell us a little bit about your reflection there.
What would I have done different? I would have left 5 years sooner. Yeah. I didn't need to stay the extra 5 years. What am I proud of? I'm proud of having listened to my intuition telling me, just screaming at me that you need to get out, despite the fact that, my family telling me, you're going to give up a full government pension. You're going to give up all this job stability. Look at the opportunities you have. Not just my family, also the agency. One of the things they're really good at is convincing their employees that they will not be successful anywhere else because they want to hold on to them. Because
Right.
It takes so much time and energy to train a new spy and get them overseas, they really want to keep their people.
That's right.
And one of the ways they do that is by saying, nothing else really matters on the outside, and no one's really going to take you seriously anyway because you can't, the exact reason why it took me 8 months to find a job. You can't talk about what you've done here, and your skills don't translate. But
it's a strategy.
a
lot of companies do that. Yeah, they want to keep control over their people. And we had a metric back at a company I worked for where we would literally tie leaders' bonuses to promoting people out of their division to another division in the company. We had it as a way to say, look, you've been hoarding your people for too long. And if your job isn't, to get this person to exceed your skills and move them on, or at least take over your job, then you're not doing it the right way. So you took all those experiences and you've really shifted now. I love you have this you talked about not having presence. You're out there everywhere now, and you've got this book and you've done all these great things. How did AWS enable that for you, or how did you decide I want to do these things too, to expand your life by design? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that definitely happened in stages. So back in 2016, when I joined as a contract PM, what I noticed was they didn't necessarily need another PM. They hired me because they needed help, but they didn't need help in PM, like project management, program management. But they actually
why they hired you? You know why they hired you? Because you were too much, and they needed all that too muchness, and I love
it. They were okay. I will say that they are definitely more accepting of too much, for sure. They needed an employee communications person. I didn't know that was a thing either at the time. All I knew was these people here in the Americas, it was a global position. These people here in the Americas are not communicating well with the people in EMEA or the people in APJC. And we need to get all of these few hundred people talking to each other and coordinating with each other, and need to make sure that they know what's going on. They know what's coming next. They know what's happened. They know the plan, the strategy. And so I started doing employee communications work before I knew what it was. What enabled me to intentionally change my career towards employee communications, and then further down the line, employee experience and ID&E and professional development, was a series just of incredible managers. Just leadership that I had never seen before, definitely not at the CIA, who were supportive and enabled, and they didn't put down my idea when I said, like, I kind of want to explore what this employee communications thing is. Do you mind if I take a course to learn more about it and get more professional about it for $1,200? Didn't blink an eye. Yeah, of course. That sounds great. They didn't blink an eye when I said, I want to join your team and join your brand new communications and employee experience team, and I'll write my job description. Help me, and you can help me fine tune it. Absolutely. Would love that. The amount of times that I've written my own job description has been incredible. It's like getting to say, this is what I am going to focus on for the next year or two. And I'm going to focus on it because it's what I believe in, and it's what the company and the team needs right now.
You took ability to respond to your situation. You asked for things. You initiated things. If everybody listening, this is about design. This is intentionality. And I always joke that you're the common denominator to your life experience. So you're the only one who can create it. And it is up to you. Now, you gave full credit to those leaders to enable that. It sounds like you continue to be authentically you. And you were fortunate that you were in a culture where there were good leaders who understood the value of the too much of Cassandra and allowed you to expand and grow where you were.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. They didn't shy away from someone saying, I think that we can do this better. And here's how I think that I can help. Yeah. So the transition from a spy who did a lot of things to really dedicated people leader who focuses on employee experience and communication and ID&E, DEI, that's been a progression over the last 8 years that I've been there. Make work suck less, and me having my name and my sometimes unhinged thoughts out there in the world, that's happened over the last 2 years.
Oh, I love it. I had fun going down the rabbit hole of your blog, and you are very bold behind the pen, I might add. I think it's great. Yeah. And sometimes we need an outlet like that. We need a voice. And that's the benefit of today's social media environment. And if you can find your voice through a social channel, I mean, I certainly have found mine. I think that, more people listening don't be afraid to be creative and just turn on your camera or start writing, because that can be very fulfilling. How did that start for you? What was the first thing you did? I'm so curious.
What is the first thing I did? So I had been, all right. So how did that start? So I was talking to a mentor of mine, and I was saying to her, just a lot of people keep coming to me and asking me for career advice. And it's always these people, it's always these women who are just fed up with the bullshit, just ready to drop the mic and quit their jobs, and they need something new. And my mentor looked at me, she was like, oh, do they? I wonder why that is, Cassandra.
Let's just think.
Why could that be? Why ever so could that be? And then I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I understand now why I attract that level of, why I attract that type of person who is experiencing a level of distress in their career and life at the moment. And I thought, maybe I should look into coaching for realsies and learn more about behind it. Again, it was I'd been exactly like how I got into employee communications. I'd been doing it. And then I said, maybe I should get professional about it.
Yeah.
And so I started looking into what coaching could look like. But the writing, I love writing. I do. I am bold behind the pen, as you said. And I just decided that I didn't want to keep it in anymore. And I laugh, and I got these huge, okay, so I'm going to pull one out actually.
Oh,
these
do it.
Giant stickers made for my team that I built, because someone asked me in a meeting in late 2021, what's your strategy here for this employee experience team? And I just looked around the table and I was like, y'all, it's to make work suck less.
There you go.
Their butts off, and I got stickers made. And they're giant.
I need one.
They take up the entire laptop. I will send you one. I'll need your address and I'll send you one. But they were like, you can't say that. I was like, I'm pretty sure that I can, and I did. That is my strategy for the employee experience, is to make work suck less. We have to acknowledge the fact that work sucks, and it sucks in little ways and big ways for people. And if you are in a role where you're leading a team, or you are designing employee policies, or you're building a company off the backs of workers, you need to take into account that they are human beings and not robots, that they have hopes and dreams and families and mortgages and health insurance needs. And maybe we should treat humans like humans. Let's just make work suck less a little bit where we can, please. And then I started writing about it.
Yeah.
Just sharing. And I loved that I started sharing as me how I would say things to friends over coffee or over a glass of wine. And that immediately attracted people who appreciate my brand of sass
Yeah.
and my brand of sass and vulnerability. Like, people have sometimes described me as like a really benevolent asshole.
I love it. Well, you're authentic. You're telling it as you are experiencing it. And that's really, it's 2024 for, if somebody's listening to this in 10 years, it'll be very interesting, right? It's all about being authentic right now, and let's just telling it how it is. And we've spent many a year here trying to keep the face that all is well, or only staying in a space of commiseration. And I'm curious how you have helped people. Maybe there's an example within the organization or within your own personal coaching work. How do we help people balance that commiseration with keeping the mask on and saying, I'm fine, I'm coping, I'm doing it, and yet I also feel like melting? And just as a side, right when we started, I would like to commend myself because I couldn't catch my breath right at the very beginning of our interview, even though I'd been sitting here for an hour preparing. But all of a sudden I was like, I need to share with Cassandra, that I am coming off of yesterday moving my mother into an independent living facility. And I needed you to know. For whatever reason, I just needed you to know. And that's, I think, an example of balance. Say, I need to put something that I'm carrying right here in front of us, and then we can set it aside. I didn't want it to get in the way. So how would you share an example or something where you brought that into making work suck less?
Yeah. So a lot about it is what you've just said. It's about acknowledging the suck and sharing with vulnerability. So if it's at work, the person I feel like you should be able to share that with is your manager. And if it's not, finding a work bestie that you can say, like, this is what I'm going through right now outside of the office. But we all know that there is no outside of the office. We don't get to be two different people. We're not a person at home and a person at work in the office. And when we were forced to be, much like I was forced to be at the CIA, that duality, where you're forced to hold compartments of yourself so separate and pretend like one part doesn't exist for half of your life, it eats away at you. You just need to be able to be the one person. So you can show up having experienced loss or disappointment or joy or just, excitement. And how is that going to fuel my day today? Or how is it going to make it so my day is going to be a little bit less productive today? And I would just like to share that with you so you understand why. I'm giving my all, just my all today happens to be 40%.
Mm-hmm. I call it life. It's not work life. It's life. It always has been. I mean, we used to joke about my corporate husband because I spent 2/3 of my life with the corporate CEO or business leader. And then I'd come home and, 1/3 of my life with my stay-at-home husband at the time. So, but I wanted that integrated. So if I needed to leave at 3:00 to go get my kid, I wanted to be able to do that. But I also needed a family to support me, that if I wanted to get up at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning and do emails, that they were okay with that too. Right? That integration piece. Well, were there any, and I've got a lot of HR followers, so we're back to your safe place online on LinkedIn. Talk to me about what strategies you might recommend to those listening that could influence a culture in their work environment, whether they're in HR or not, or they're a business leader. What have you done that works?
So yeah, let me definitely, I'm going to plug Safe Space. That is a brainchild of Hiba Yusuf's over at Workweek. And she is the creator of I Hate It Here, which is a newsletter, which again, like Minds Attract, she's an amazing woman. And it's a place for progressive HR professionals to come together in community and share exactly like what you're asking, share strategies and best practices and experiences, or just scream into the void. Actually, that channel is probably the most active right now.
Scream into the void. I love it. I needed that. Where were you guys when I was going through all this? Oh my God.
Oh, right. So I think that was like the quickest like sell email to buy in my inbox last year was when she launched Safe Space. And I was like, absolutely. I am in. Day one founding member. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So strategies to help folks help their teams integrate, or to help their companies integrate work and life.
Yes. Whatever. You give us a best practice. We want to hear it.
Y'all, you gotta enable your people to have both, and to talk about both, and to experience both. And an example is if you have a PTO policy, you need to demonstrate that you are taking your leave and you are disconnecting for that leave. And you need to encourage your team to take their leave and disconnect from that leave and not bug them while they are on that leave. And then when they get back, to ask, how was it? And, invite them to share whatever they'd like to, get to know them as a whole human being. My team referred to my son, Gabriel, for the first, year and a half of his life as the unpaid intern on the team, because he would frequently join our team meetings because I was leading a global team. So in order to accommodate Seattle, DC, London, and Sydney time zones, it was always one of us, or many of us, had kids who were eating breakfast or eating dinner while we were having this meeting. And so the unpaid interns were welcome on the call, to the point where my son and my now friend's daughter, who's the same age, recognize each other from seeing each other on video calls, even though she's in Sydney, Australia, and he's in Washington, DC.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, having a life and bringing parts of that life into work are okay.
Yeah.
I remember sharing something with one of my early managers at Amazon. It was a dude. One of the few dude managers I've had at Amazon, actually. Just fantastic. And I called him up one day, or I texted him and I said, hey, I'm going to need to take a couple days off. And he said, absolutely. Like, you okay? And I said, I just got dumped. And he was completely supportive.
Yeah.
And I remember just feeling so grateful in that moment for someone who supported me taking time off to myself for what was a devastating breakup for me that came out of nowhere and like knocked me flat on my ass for a few solid days.
And you trusted him enough to tell him the truth, right?
I hold very little back, which again, like people are like, you're too much. I go with, I'm just going to share with what's going on. I'm going to share with what's on my mind, and you do with that what you will. I'm not going to make up a story about why I need 3 days off. I'm just going to tell you this is why I need 3 days off and hope that you're going to be supportive.
But that's part of the responsibility, right?
Sure.
So I think to your point, yes, leaders, you need to be open and aware and role model and intentionally facilitate opportunities for people to take their time, not interrupt them. It's kind of like we think that's leadership 101, but there's a lot going on. I feel like if leaders did that, great, but how are they really making the employee feel like they're in a safe space? And yet, employees, you must continue to behave in the way you want to be supported. And when I think about both of these contexts over the years, the word fear comes into mind. Because what is it that we're really afraid of? What do you hear people tell you in the process of implementing all this work you're doing from the employees or from the leaders when they are having a hard time doing exactly what you're telling them they should do?
Yeah, so fear, making decisions out of fear rather than out of love is a big one. So leaders fear that maybe they're going to say the wrong thing, or they fear that they're not implementing policy the right way. And to that I say, like, then change the freaking policy. The policy doesn't need to stay the policy. Do what's right, not what's written down in stone.
I call that the gray area, and I was known for being a great HR leader because I understood the gray area. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, but that would set precedent. And I was like, no, it won't. It won't. It'll be a one-off because we decided it was the right thing to do. Next,
Yeah. Or you use that as a really great launch point to make a permanent change that will positively impact more people down the line.
Yeah.
What I hear from employees who are talking to me about making a shift, and they're trying to figure out how to, get rid of the burnout in their life. They're terrified of losing their job or getting, before you lose your job, you get put on the shit list, and they don't want to put themselves under the microscope as not being dedicated enough, not being a team player. And there is definitely something to that, depending on the people that you are working with and the company that you're working for.
Sure.
So it's a balance. Okay, what matters more to you right now? What can you do right now to make it a little bit easier, to make it suck a little bit less for you, as you plot to make it suck a lot less for you and make an escape into some place that will value who you are as a whole human being?
I think you're right. I quit my job spontaneously. So, God, I wish I'd had somebody tell me to plot behind the scenes the next move. And it's really great advice. So, if you're in an environment where you need to get the hell out, get the hell out. But, I didn't have to get the hell out. I just did because I was done. But I think you're right. People need to either accept where they are and be fully committed, or plot the exit and know they've made the choice already in their mind's eye. They're in their mind. And then they're going to say, okay, I am where I am. It is what it is. And I'm also parallel going to create a plan. Otherwise, they're sitting in with one foot in and one foot out, and they're setting themselves up for mediocrity. Either you are in or you are out. So if you are in and you're not leaving, then it's your responsibility to look at your experience and change the meaning of your experience, no matter what your manager does. No matter what your manager does. If you're not leaving, then love it. You got to find a way to embrace it and be there completely. And have you ever had people just go because they're like, no, I can't change. I cannot see this any other way than what it is, and I'm going to go do something else. How many?
We see that all the time.
Yeah,
good. We do. We see people leave all the time, and I think that's totally okay. If that's what you need right now, that's totally okay. I think what I discourage people from sitting in is the feeling of stuck. Right. I'm stuck here. You're not stuck. I promise you are not stuck. If they are not holding you hostage at this job, you are there because you are prioritizing financial stability. You are prioritizing, a job in a location that is easy for you to get to. Maybe it offers you flexibility that you need in order to care for a young child or an elder parent. You are staying there because you are waiting for, you're waiting for housing prices to come down or interest rates to come down so that you can cash out some stock, buy another house, and grow your family. You are prioritizing another part of your life while you wait until external circumstances change and you can leave your job and find one that suits you better. While you're there, how can we help you find something a little bit more joyful in your day-to-day, even if it's not in the one-on-one interactions with your manager, who is, I agree, she's terrible. I would not want to work for her either. Or it may not be the work that you want to be doing because it's so boring that it makes you fall asleep at your desk. How can we find you something that will spark a little bit more energy again until you can quit your job and find something new?
Yes. And you call that pivot with purpose.
Yeah.
I saw that on your website because that's really, you can't make the pivot until you decide. First of all, you have to decide what you're going to do. And here's the beauty of that decision. Sometimes when people make that call and they're like, yep, okay, I'm going to start finding great things at this job to manage me through, and I'm hanging my hat on that next thing. Guess what? If their energy shifts, they can change their experience. Sometimes they never leave because they're like, oh, once I started finding the glimmer and having fun. I mean, you've seen that, right?
I have. I actually saw that in one of my first clients. She was having a really tough time with her manager. They just did not see eye to eye. She did not like the work she was doing. She felt like she was not getting the work that she deserved. The projects, they weren't coming her way. And we talked about, okay, well, what are your values? What are your passions? What are your skills? And, if you were to pivot your career, what would that look like? And for her, that would have looked like turning a role as a mentor into more of a permanent educator or advisor position with people in her community, people that she saw herself in, 10 years before that. And so what she did was she found a role as an adjunct professor in a local college and loved doing that, getting to share her experience mentoring young people who were exactly in the position that she was in. And in the process, in the meantime, radically improved her relationship with her manager and her relationship to her day-to-day work, and wound up staying and doing both. It can happen.
It does happen. And like energy attracts like energy. So even if you don't want to quit your job, or if you can't, just start saying, where can, and my, another guest, Nicole Lewis-Keeber, I talked about it on my story. She talks about, are you looking for the glimmers in the day? What is the glimmer, right? That. What's the fun? So gosh, we could keep going. I want to honor your time and mine. You talk a little bit about helping people get out of that burnout cycle and waking up excited and energized. And I know we don't always wake up excited and energized, but excited and energized. How do you know if you're in the burnout cycle, striving all the time? How do you know when you've moved out of that and you're thriving? Like, how do you help people look at both sides of the striving versus thriving way of being?
Gosh, that's a good question. I have to think about my own experience and the being and the striving to moving to the thriving. I feel like it's too gradual to be able to say it doesn't happen overnight. I think burnout can take years to build to a crescendo of just dread and low energy and really low self-confidence. And it can take another years to get out of it. Like they say, it takes 9 months to grow a baby and 9 months to recover from it. I'm kind of of the same mindset about burnout. Yeah. When I started feeling burnt out again last year, I noticed the shift in my energy. I noticed the shift in how I felt about life and work. And I said, having been there before, I'm not doing that again. I'm not going to wait 5 years and then another 4 to get the help I need, or to change things, to be more intentional about how I spend my time and how I spend my energy. And so I started gradually making small changes to my day and taking intentional steps back. And until eventually I woke up and I was like, oh, I feel pretty good. I mean, I still don't love exactly what I'm doing at work. I still have challenges, being wife and mom and manager, but it's okay. We're going to get through it. Like there are glimmers in the day, and I see them and I look for them intentionally. I don't wake up feeling like, the world is ending.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. It doesn't happen overnight, and expecting it to is too much. And I think when we tell people, what's the moment to look for, it might set them up for failure, because they're feeling like, I'm doing all these things. I'm taking the break. I took a vacation. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm setting intentional time to go out with my husband. I'm making time for my baby, but I'm not seeing the difference. I still feel it. Like, that's okay. you kind of just got to keep working through it.
Yeah, you keep feeling it. I always invite people to do root cause analysis around that feeling, right? So, because you're right, and I've been there. The key word, though, that you said a second ago was when I began to feel the burnout again. So once you observe yourself and can actually see what it looks like, then you can recognize it faster in the future. I think that's an excellent point. And your life changes, seasonal changes, right? Babies, no babies, new pet, no pet, whatever's happening, death, grief, life milestones. I've found it to be the most intense thing. I posted the other day about how, oh my God, forget all my bullshit strategic self-care. I can't barely breathe. Not that it's bullshit, but sometimes you just can't do all the things. And I think social media has actually, on the negative side of things, made everybody think they're supposed to wake up every day, take the cold bath and write 3 things down in their journal and eat the whatever and drink the whatever and jump up and down 52 times. And good night. That burns me out thinking about all of the rituals and routines. So yeah. No more dread, no more I used to say hands on the steering wheel, and now I change it to hands on your cursor, on your laptop. If you start dreading, then it's time to change, So you published the You Got This journal. Tell us about this before we hang up, because this has been helpful for me. What I like most about it is it's very simple. It's simplified, and it gives me immediate focused attention. So why did you create that? Was it for you or for us or both?
It's a little bit of both. I think so. I created this because I found myself walking people through my thought process on how I think about the year and how I think about what I want to accomplish in a year or how I want to feel in a year, tied to how am I supporting myself? And I kind of got burned out on sharing like the step-by-step process. And I was like, why don't I just put this all in a book?
Perfect. I did that too.
I mean, I was like, let's just these are the things that I do for myself. These are the exact questions that I ask myself. These are the exact prompts that I think myself. These are the exact exercises. And so it's gratitude, it's reflection, and it's intention. And you said that you were going to ask me one of my questions. I'm going to close the book and let you do that.
Okay, so
hopefully I can answer it.
Yeah, so she's got the daily gratitude, and you start with your top priorities and your intention for the day. The intention for the day, by the way, stumps me half the time because it's hard to focus on what is my intention? And I think intention comes back when you said the word feeling. How do I want to feel? You said, what do I want to accomplish? But then how do I want to feel? So I use your today's intention for how I want to feel. And I use the top priorities that they might be more about accomplishment, right? Yeah. Then you go to what are you thankful for? So let's go to do you want to tell us your intention for today? Did you do it today? Did you think about it?
So my intention for today was to take a nap.
Okay, good. Well, we're still early. You have time, unless you already took one.
No. It's definitely on the list. So my intention today was to rest, to intentionally rest, because I did not do it yesterday.
Oh.
I didn't make that time yesterday, and I needed it. And I was just so exhausted by the time my son came home from school and making dinner for everyone, and then getting him to bed. And I had needed the rest, and so I wanted to bring it back down to. I need to make the time intentionally today to put my feet up and rest and sleep.
And why didn't you do it yesterday?
Yesterday, I prioritized instead going to Whole Foods to pick up ingredients to make a nutritious from scratch dinner for the family. And did not have time.
Scratch. Is that where you get scratch? So you had a different priority yesterday. Then at what point did you realize I needed a nap yesterday? Did you realize it yesterday? Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think this is actually great because the journal requires you to look back as well. So you have to reflect back, something. To me, I look at the page before and see how it went. But your intuition already gave you the notice. Well, that was a grand idea you had about going to get all those ingredients. And now here you are, you're exhausted. If you could do yesterday over, what would you change?
Probably nothing.
And so can you accept the consequence today? Yeah. So it just changed your priority to today. See, I love that because I would never change anything either. But what did I learn from it and how it has yesterday's behaviors? Because everything we choose and do has a consequence.
And in the journal, how I think about it is looking ahead to the next week. What do I want more of and what do I want less of?
Yeah. And I love that. And what made you laugh yesterday or today? That's another question, guys.
Oh, yesterday, there's a really fantastic group chat that I'm in on LinkedIn. And we were laughing about, there's a CEO who's like dead set on having a pirate themed company culture. And it is just freaking hilarious because it is like delusional in its levels of disconnected from reality, but it's hilarious. And getting to laugh with people about how hilarious and like they started sharing, someone dress up like Captain Jack Sparrow and apply for that role and tell us how ridiculous the interview is. Like that's what had me laughing yesterday.
I love it. And that's commiserating, connecting your online BFFs. I mean, that's connection. Yeah, That's awesome. And then tomorrow or yesterday, what were you looking forward to about today?
Ooh, besides a nap?
Besides the nap? No, besides this interview. Oh, gosh, I gave you a softball.
I was looking forward to meeting up with you for the first time IRL via video. Right. Because that is something that I have been loving about life since putting myself back out there on LinkedIn and my blog is connecting with people and meeting and kind of moving from a space of being a hermit who's very, very private and independent to, there are like really cool people out in the world and we can share really cool things together. And like I'm meeting up on Friday with someone who is in the same business coaching program that I'm in. She's going to be in DC. And so we're going to meet up for coffee and lunch. And I'm looking forward to it. I've never met this person before and never got to have a conversation with her. So,
looking forward to is actually a really critical piece in positive psychology and longevity as I work with my almost 84-year-old mother. And if you don't have that connection and things to look forward to, so you're connecting with yourself by getting out ahead of it and making a plan, putting something on your calendar. So your journal really does a nice job of that because it actually gets you a little bit out ahead of yourself. And a lot of people just stay in, like you said, you hermit it up or you're going moment to moment to moment, which is a really powerful presence. But in a life by design, you really don't create the life you want unless you look out ahead of it. So let me ask you that. What are you really looking out ahead? I know you have a new baby on the way in the next 4 weeks. Tell us what else you're looking forward to in your life by design that you're intentionally planning.
We are intentionally planning a horrific home renovation project this year, and I'm already looking forward to that. No, it's horrific. It's going to require us to move out of our home with a newborn for months at a time and live with our lovely in-laws while they finish the work. So I am absolutely looking forward to coming back to a home that is better, more efficient for our new family of 4 and offers all the things we need. But that's just me like trying to get past the the challenge that I know that this year is going to be longer
it
term.
Will be. I've done that. I lived it with my in-laws for a year. So may I share some advice about that?
Please.
So a couple of things. First of all, the way you can get out ahead of that is by deciding what you're going to make it all mean. Right. Okay. So you get to choose that. No matter what happens, you own how you are perceiving that choice, that decision, and everything your mother and father-in-law, the mother-in-law and father-in-law say or do, right? So it won't be easy, but you can make it easier on you. So think about all the little things that they do because they don't know any better, and it triggers you, right? All those little things. And then I want you to go ahead now and write down, how will I react? And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm going to laugh really hard. So my beautiful mother-in-law at the time, when we were living there while we built a house, she's just chatty and loving and doesn't know any better. Well, I was corporate HR working my butt off and burnout. I was burning myself out. It was the same year I thought I was having a heart attack, but I wasn't. It was a stress attack.
Been there.
And I can remember every morning, we lived upstairs. They lived downstairs with the main. I would come down the steps and she'd already be up. And every morning she would say, "You look so beautiful. Oh, you look so pretty." And I found myself talking to my husband and complaining about it. I'm like, every morning she says the same thing. "You look so beautiful. You look so pretty." And my husband looked at me like, which part about this story am I misunderstanding? But in reflection, right? I had not taken care of myself. I couldn't even accept her nervous compliment every morning. So it will be little things like that, and like where you park the car, and if you forgot to clean something up, and we spilled pink fingernail polish all over the brand new carpet in the guest room because I had 3 kids and 2 of them were into pink fingernail polish. Okay, so take a big deep breath and just decide now and make notes of it somewhere in your journal, something to where you can remind yourself and go back to it. And
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So when I share all that, what are some thoughts coming to mind for you as you go into this?
Well, I refer to this as the horrific renovation, but the reason why we're doing this is because when our son Gabriel was, I want to say he was 7 months old, we were living in this condo on the about a mile away, still in the city, and it was 700 square feet, and he had started being mobile, and we quickly realized that space was not going to work for us long term, and we started looking for houses. And we were looking, I'd say we were looking quasi-seriously until I walked into this one. This was, 2.5 years ago now. I walked into this one and I immediately felt like, okay, this is the place where our grandkids are going to visit us. And in order to make that a reality, we have to reconfigure the space better so that it will work in the longer term. And so that's just like you're saying, like, write down, the things that are going to bug you. And I'm also thinking, like, keep the why in mind.
Yes, the pivot so with purpose, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would invite you to remove the word, not that it doesn't have horrific undertones because it's a massive life change, but body, emotion, and language, right? So when you say horrific, you're attracting the word horrific. You're attracting the vibration and energy of the word horrific. So let's come up with what's the opposite of horrific, or a purpose-driven word to describe this choice. You're not forced to do it. It is a conscious choice.
We are doing this to ourselves. Yes. For a reason.
So what's that reason? What's a good word we could come up with?
Transformational.
Oh, if that's the first word that came to your mind, use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now say it. tell me about this thing you're about to do. What's it called?
We're about to do this really transformational renovation that's going to enable us to let our grandkids come and visit in hopefully 25, 30 years.
So tell me how that one felt compared to the commiserating, horrific renovation that we're about to go undergo. Right? I love you. You're so amazing. And you've already been doing this your whole life, like intentionality. I can tell you nothing, like you said, the stars aligned. No, they didn't. Your too muchness actually created all that awesome reality. And I'm just really grateful that you shared your journey with us today. Before we hang up, I'm going to ask you what I ask most of my interviewees and all of my clients. What is the one thing you want to celebrate the most about your life by design?
That I am where I am today with the incredible family that I have, because I set myself up for that intentionally. And someone asked, literally, my manager, she had a not going away, but it was just a team meeting, and it was a coffee chat, and the theme was life accomplishments. And I had not done any prep work for the team meeting. This was last Friday, my last day of work before maternity leave. And, she was asking, what's your biggest life accomplishment? And I feel like I've done a lot in my life, but the thing that I'm most proud of is giving myself the gift of love, the gift of family, the gift of having someone who's going to be there at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you did that intentionally when you made that career change. Mm-hmm. You went back to what mattered most to you. And that's all that we invite people to do, is back up and think about what really matters here. I'll often say, what would love do? What would love do right now? Let's go. What would peace do? And what would making work suck less look like? Mm-hmm. Your curiosity and taking your teams and their clients down that path, I think, has been very powerful. How can people find you, Cassandra? What is it that you want to share about what you're working on before we wrap up?
So I'm working on just finishing cooking this baby.
That's right. I'm making a baby. Yeah,
I'm making a baby. But you can easily find me on LinkedIn. Where I am less engaged is Instagram, although I am there and I go through cycles of being engaged there. But subscribing to Make Work Suck Less is the easiest way to connect with me week after week. And if you're so inclined, you're feeling like you need a little bit more intention and reflection in your life, you can order You Got This on Amazon.
Oh, I highly recommend it. And you also have on your website, you have some free resources for time management and career change and how to talk to your boss. And I posted a thing this week about difficult conversations, and you have some really powerful stuff. So I will send everybody there via the show notes. And I want to send you off now, my beautiful friend, to go take that nap.
Thank you so much, Nicoa. I appreciate that. It's definitely happening today. I'm probably going to eat some snacks first and then do it.
Oh, yeah. Food first. Yeah, food first. Okay. I love you. Thank you. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for a caffeinated conversation. Subscribe to Coffee with Nicoa for more stories from people living a life by design. You can also find inspiration on Instagram. Just follow Coffee with Nicoa. And check out our website, coffeewithnicoa.com. And that's Nicoa, Nicoa. We look forward to talking with you soon, and enjoy your coffee between now and then.